In this episode of the IT Experts podcast, we're going to help you understand, identify, and reduce your levels of stress. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast, the only podcast to help MSPs scale to 1 million, and if already there, get to 5 and go faster. At the end of the day, isn't it all about building a business that works for you rather than you for it? I hope you enjoy the show. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast. We have another amazing guest back in the house today. Rachel Williams, welcome back to the podcast platform. How are you today?
I'm very fine. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me back.
No problem. You're very fine. That's great.
I'm very fine. I'm great. I've been swimming this morning.
Fantastic. You've been swimming. Now, this is all a bit of a giggle and a laugh, this episode, because Rachel and I know each other for a long time. And a couple of months ago, we decided to do a podcast on stress. However, that was supposed to be episode 180 of the podcast. And it turned into an episode about how to look after yourself and your health and your fitness, your well-being, your mindset and everything like that. And in fairness, it was probably just a bit of a rambled structure, which turned into a great show. And at the end of it, I said to Rachel, by the way, did you realise we didn't actually talk about what I wanted to talk to you about? She goes, what was that? So it's about stress. So today, let's start again. Let's have another go at this, see if we can actually stay on topic this time. Rachel Williams, who are you? What do you do? And who do you help?
Oh, gosh, what's my name and where do I come from?
That's exactly it. I've been on the X Factor, isn't it? I did ask you this last time, so I was expecting this not to be a shock.
Exactly, to refresh the listener's mind. So
that's correct.
I run an employee wellness consultancy called Zest Lifestyle, and we are all about helping you and your teams become healthier and happier so that you're more engaged and productive at work. But also, I want to help you live healthier for longer as well. And we do that by helping you look after your sleep, improve your diet, improve your physical activity, look after your mental well-being, and look after those periods of rest, which we call pause, where you can re-energize yourself. And then also general things about men and women's health and general health. That's what it is in a nutshell.
That's what it is in a nutshell. And I've got a little bit of a student progress report. But if you want to learn how to live life longer, the things that could be making you moody, the things that could be making you feeling a little bit down, how to get more energy, then just please go and check out episode 180, Time to Start Looking After Yourself. It was an absolutely incredible show. And on the back of that, in student report for you, I have recently been making sure, I thought I slept quite well because I was out for the count. So that was pretty cool. And I never thought I actually had a problem with this whole your phone thing, using it at night. However, I've read a book recently called Tiny Habits and gone into a few things to become more present at home, which is very hard when you're bouncing around like I do all the time. And I've now had everything turning off at 9:15 and spending just half an hour, just not really doing much and just relaxing, and then reading a book, which is all rather interesting. And started off reading 2 lines, then 2 paragraphs, then 2 pages. And then, it's only up to about 20 minutes now. I can't believe the quality of my sleep right now. And on the lead up to bed, it doesn't really feel any different. Mm-hmm. But when you wake up in the morning, it's, I don't know. And I never really got caught up in this long, slide-ins and, on the social medias and all of that sort of stuff. I might just check a few emails or things like that. But I can't believe the difference just calming the mind down before you go to sleep has on the quality of your sleep. And the reason I know that is because I wear a Fitbit when I go to sleep, and it gives me the sleep score. And I've never had a sleep score of over 80, which is really interesting, isn't it? What's that all about? Let's do a bit of consultancy while we're here. Is that just because I've just simmered the mind down, or because sleep is so important, isn't it? And we're not going to digress too much about this because we are going to talk about stress in a minute. But what's going to happen there?
Well, when I talk to people about sleep and they go, they get into their sort of Fitbit figures, and it's like, well, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning? That is the main thing. And it is about what you do during your day and what you do in the evening that's going to contribute to how well you sleep. So if you're staring at screens, some people say, or scientists say, that it's looking at blue light. So some people go, well, okay, I'm looking at a flat screen TV all evening, but that's kind of quite relaxing. But you need to kind of rest your eyes away from these LCD screens because there's lots of flickering things that are sort of happening in those screens that maybe we don't see with the naked eye, but they're going in through the retina, they're going through to the little sort of gland that picks up when it starts to get dark and when you start to feel sleepy. So your suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is this little sort of bundle of nerves that sort of go, okay, right, it's time to sort of feel tired, it's time to sort of start to shut down for bed. And then that signals the pineal gland to start secreting melatonin. So if we've got a calmer mind before we're going to sleep, then that means you're going to have a better quality sleep.
And this doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to feel buzzed up or that you're excited. It's what's going on in your head, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you have no concept of which is really cool because that kind of answers my question. Anyway, now we've got that bit out and done with. And I'm sure we can loop this back in so therefore it's relevant to stay in the podcast. Of course we can. You did a great talk at a CompTIA event, which really didn't necessarily hit me too hard, but hit me in terms of the clients that we deal with at the Growth Hub and the people listening to this podcast, the MSPs, about self-care and stress. And we're on a mission, Stuart and I, to create a legacy to help as many MSPs as we possibly can, to build confidence, like you are, to help people to live life longer. So we're on kind of like the same journey with the same values. And when you hear something that can affect, improve and, and support more and more people, it kind of my ears pop up and prick up. And sometimes people come to us and say they need help when they've hit rock bottom and they've had enough and they're stressed and they're tired and they're not dealing. And while it's great for us marketing wise to know this, it's pretty crap that someone's got to get to that position before they reach out for some help, right? Because rock bottom's not a great place to be, whatever rock bottom is, and that can be different for different people. So you started talking about stress, and I sort of thought we need to bring this into the podcast because I think it's really, really important that we understand what it is, what can we do about it in ourselves, and more importantly, what can we do about it if we think someone else is stressed and help them. So that's kind of what I just want to chat about today. So Rachel, what is stress? When we say, I'm stressed or people are stressed, what's going on? What's the body telling us?
Okay, well, stress is a natural reaction to an event, and we all have different sort of thresholds of how stressed we feel when something happens. So it's there actually as a protection mechanism. So I talked about at CompTIA the 3 brains. So we've got our lizard brain, which is our sort of ancient brain, which is our sort of reactive brain. So stress is there to protect us. So if we are confronted with danger, it will protect us. We have that fight or flight mechanism that will make us think, okay, do I have to fight this or do I have to run away from it? Then the next brain we have is our emotional brain, and then we have our human brain. I think on my side I had a picture of Brian Cox. He's the human brain. But emotional brain was dog brain. So when we're in this sort of reflex action of we just react, that's fine if we're in danger. So for example, if a wasp flies towards us, our immediate reaction is to bat it away because we know that wasp potentially could harm us. Or if we're driving our car and we get cut up by somebody, we immediately slam on the brakes or we have to swerve. We have to react. But for us for our ancestors, that was obviously when we were confronted with danger, say, for example, saber-toothed tiger, we had to decide whether or not that thing was going to kill us and eat us, or whether or not we could kill it and eat it, or whether it was something to mate with. So it was like potential mate.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that was
So that was really why we have stress. It is there to protect us. But in modern day times, we get stressed about all sorts of different things. It could be work and things. So with dangerous stress, say when we're in danger, then that stress will come and then it will go. So for example, the wasp will come towards us, we'll bat it away, that stress will go. We won't even notice that stress. Or we swerve the car or hit the brakes, that stress will go. But when we're talking about sort of stress in our normal lives, that stress kind of is prolonged, if you like. It just stays in our system and it doesn't go. And it starts to become a problem if we don't learn to manage it. So we're always going to have stress, but we've got to just learn how to manage it properly so it doesn't become a longer term problem. Now, some people will get stressed about something at work or in their lives, and then it won't sort of bother them, or it may sort of come back again, but it will just sort of maybe come and go. We need some stress or positive stress to help us to become motivated. So stress gets us up in the morning, so our body fires off cortisol and adrenaline to wake us up. It takes over from melatonin, our sleepy hormone. And then to be motivated to do things, if we didn't have any stress, we'd just be bored. Life would be actually quite dull. But if you think about stress in terms of, say, work, you need a little bit of stress there to sort of get projects done. And, you need things to be sort of interesting and engaging. You need to be learning more. With learning, there's like a slight bit of stress there. But once you kind of get to that top of that curve, you think, yeah, I'm cooking on gas, I'm in control, everything's great. And then there comes a point where you go over that curve and you start to feel exhausted. It starts to become too much. It starts to become overwhelmed. And then you get even more exhausted. And this is where you go the other side and you get burnt out, you get anxiety, depression, and all the nasty stuff starts to happen. You start to get ill. So that is really kind of what stress is in a big nutshell.
And this can be, as we know, this can be things that happen to us. These can be things, or contributors can be things that happen to us. It can be contributors, can be things that we do to ourselves, because we could have, limiting beliefs, or we could have opinions on what we think are the things that can then. And the way I had it explained to me once was, throughout your whole life, you will fill a tank up of either memories or stress. And as that tank gets higher and higher and higher, you then get to the fight or flight, and then that might go down a little bit. And if this keeps bubbling up and keeps coming up, and you're carrying all of this baggage with you, like in a rucksack, you're going to get into a point where you're going to have a breakdown, or your body's just going to go, no, I'm done. This is kind of like really hard. And then this guy was explaining to me, he says, go to the doctors. It's brilliant because they give you some drugs. And then all of a sudden your threshold goes all the way down, but it doesn't take away the problems that you've got kind of lingering down and lingering in the deepness. So now I've just realized that this podcast has the possibility of going for hours. So I'm going to try and prevent that from happening. What are some of the signs of stress that you would see in yourself, and then also in your workplace, in people?
Yeah, so 4 different sort of categories. So you've got physical, mental, emotional, and behavioural. So physical things could be like aches and pains, or digestive problems, nausea and dizziness, sort of palpitations, sort of rapid heart rate, getting ill, tiredness, loss of libido is another one. And then, say, for the mental things, that could be mood swings and irritability. That's definitely me. I get very snappy, just ask my husband. The inability to relax, overwhelm, that's another one for me. Actually, exhaustion is another one for me. There may be a sense of loneliness and isolation, that you think that, you can't talk to anybody about it because you're like the only one, and you'd feel stupid discussing it with someone, which comes then into maybe low self-esteem and confidence. And then on the emotional side, you have got things like forgetfulness, poor concentration. That's another one for me. Distraction, your mind constantly processing about the problem. You become a little bit sort of obsessive about it. Poor decision making and being sort of negative, anxiousness and depression. And then on the behavioural side, this used to be me before I got into wellbeing in my corporate days: increased alcohol, caffeine and nicotine intake. So I used to neck back a bottle of wine and smoke 60 cigarettes and drink loads of coffee. And then sort of like...
It was all right in the 80s.
Yeah, Chardonnay.
A standard, that was.
Yeah. Eating more fatty and sugary foods. So that's when you maybe start binge eating and eating all the wrong things. Maybe too much sleep because you're tired, or too little sleep because you're wired. Procrastination, and then sort of looking at nervous habits that you might start to adopt, like nail biting or pacing, or the jiggling knee, or addiction. So this could become in all sorts of different forms. It could be gambling or porn, or all sorts of things that become, or drugs, an addiction. So these are all kind of like, so those are more behavioral things. But then the other things, you have to kind of recognize what are your stress signals, your stress, or the little triggers that you have.
Yeah.
And so I always know with me that it is tiredness and exhaustion, that my energy will just suddenly go whoosh, right off. It just literally crashes. And then mood swings and irritability. So the snappiness, feeling overwhelmed, might cry, but that may not necessarily be the same for blokes. Women are obviously a lot more emotional. And then, the poor concentration is on my thing. So I know those things, when I start to feel them, it's like, okay, I need to stop what I'm doing.
Just feeling you're feeling it.
Yeah.
I know I'd bring it back to that sleep and the comment that you said straight after I was talking about it. And you said, well, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning? And this is all about, the signals, everything that you've just mentioned there to me is, when you wake up in the morning, how are you feeling? Are you feeling happy? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling frustrated? And I think how you start your day can be a good barometer, because leadership self-awareness can help you to understand other people and understand when things aren't right. And Jane over there, she's dropped the ball a bit. She used to be better than she was. She's not as accurate as she was. Bob over here, he's getting a bit grumpy, and picking up those signs. I think, we talk a lot about the different people on the DISC scale, and when you understand who they are and where they are, you understand when you've got I'm not going to say abnormalities, but you've got a change in the behavior that you've just described, which could be stress. So that's kind of in the others. But with ourselves, it's a bit harder, isn't it? Because particularly as business owners, and we're the ones with all the weights on our shoulders, and we're the ones who've got to pay all the mortgages, and we're the ones we've got, do all of this stuff. Sometimes we can kind of brush it under the carpet. And then when it gets too late, you're not checking in on yourself, because you talked about self-care as well, didn't you? What does that look like in its most basic form? What's the minimum that any ambitious MSP who's driven to succeed and what should that look like in terms of checking in on yourself every day?
Yeah, well, I guess it goes back to my 5 pillars of vitality: sleep, eat, move, think, pause. And it's kind of thinking, right, okay, some people go, Rachel, how am I supposed to sleep if I'm stressed? Well, you need to work on the other 4 pillars so that you are relaxed enough before bedtime so that you do get a good night's sleep. So, making sure that you are creating the right environment for sleep. So that would be making sure that, if you've got a whole load of stuff going on inside your head, that you are like getting it out of your head, whether or not it's talking to somebody about it, or you're writing all your stresses down. And this is an exercise that I always recommend people do. And I do, whenever I feel kind of overwhelmed, is like write down the list of your stresses. And by each one, you put, can I control this or can I influence it? And for those 2 things, write down a little action list of what you can do to control that particular stressor, or how can you influence it. If it's something that you can't control, then you are going to have to change the way you feel about it, because that thing will just keep eating away at you and causing you stress unnecessarily. And once you understand that, then that will help you just already sort of calm your system down, because you're taking action against that list of stressors. And then it's making sure that you are following up every day or every couple of days with that little action list for all those things that you can influence and control. So that's like the number one thing that you can do to help you. So that will help you obviously sleep better, because you're getting the stress under control. The other thing is to make sure that, it's like, what are you eating? Are you feeding that stress with the horrible, fatty, sugary sort of junk foods because you haven't got time to cook? But it's like, well, what can you, if you are short of time, then it's like, what can you eat that's going to make you feel better, that's going to be sort of good, healthy food? So eat good, healthy protein. So making sure that, if you eat meat probably a couple of times a week, poultry, fish, shellfish, seafood, nuts, seeds, eggs, dairy. I always make sure there's like eggs and cheese in my fridge. So at least I can put something together. Or pulses. Pulses are really good for you. Vegetables and fruit. I say no more than 3 pieces of fruit a day. So having a healthy diet is going to start to sort of help you. Physical exercise, physical activity. It's like, we need to move more. We can't be sitting on our backsides all day. So, if you're short of time, go out and have a walk. Have a walking meeting with one of your colleagues if you haven't got time. At least you're getting out in the fresh air, you're getting outside, you're getting daylight. So you're getting your vitamin D from the sun. So it's kind of 2 hits really, because you're getting sort of all that sort of wonderful sort of bonus of healthy stuff, as well as working at the same time. But it's so important that we understand that we have to move more, or, get yourself a standing desk, and making sure that if you are stressed, you're getting rid of the stress in your body, because boy, do your muscles get knotted up in your neck and your back or your lower back. So stretching, doing a bit of yoga, or there's an app that I use called Fiton, Fiton. It's free. And they've got all these different workouts on there, and you can do, they've got like little yoga workouts for stretching for your back and your lower back. And they're like 10 minutes. So it's like, just do them, because you're going to sleep better if you're not stressed and you've got an achy back. It's like you can't keep taking painkillers the whole time to.
No, and it's like these little habits to make it different and to make, to install in, because if it's easy to do it, it's easy not to do it. So it's just as easy to say, I'm going to go and grab a burger because it's nice and quick and easy. And, one thing to add to what you just mentioned there about the food, and yeah, we all know, everybody knows that they should be eating healthier. The less processed food that you're eating, the healthier it is, the better it is for your body, the better it is for your mind and everything like this. And we were talking about this. We had an intensive 2-day session with our clients last week. We ended up hardcore, all sitting around drinking beer, talking about wheatgrass. It was hilarious. So we was all sitting there having a drink and a glass of wine and whatnot, and then we got onto the subject of wheat, and I thought of you, and I thought, my God, what would you think? Anyway, there's one of these guys was talking, and then we got onto this story that I tell, I'm not going to repeat it now, which was a Tony Robbins thing, where he sort of says, the higher the frequency of the food, like broccoli and greens, it matches the frequency of your brain, whereas chocolate cake doesn't have much. No. And that's why when you eat low, high processed, high sugar food, you feel tired because your body's having to go in and process this food to eat, sort of thing. But the one thing that I just wanted to mention that I find really helps, the reason that, you've just said eat protein, is because protein fills you up so you don't get snacky. And I am the world's worst malted milk muncher late at night, or used to be, in rice cakes or something that fills you up a little bit, but it hasn't got as much, crap in it and sugar and all of these sort of things. And the reason that protein's so important, and I do this with a tuna sandwich or a tuna and a jacket potato, is because it'll fill you up. Because while your body's processing this protein, which is a good thing, you're feeling satisfied, rather than eating a hamburger and 3 minutes later you're had such a hit of monosodium glutamate or whatever it is, you're hungry again. Well, you're not hungry. It's just the way that your body's reacting to it. And, so we had this at the weekend. I said to my wife, I said, we just need to eat food today that's going to fill us up and keep you full. And then you won't do it. And the other thing as well that I've found interesting, that, your body, and I'm sure you'll confirm this, can't tell you if it's thirsty or hungry. And the first thing that you should do is, if you feel hungry, drink some water. Drink a pint of water, 2 pints of water. Because 9 times out of 10, you're not hungry. It's just telling you I'm thirsty. So you flush a load of water in, and then guess what? Your hunger goes away. Well, you haven't eaten anything, So we always like go for the vending machines and things like this, but it has such an effect, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. So eating a healthy diet is so important, and actually you can't really overeat on natural food. If I said to you, I want you to eat 4 apples, you probably wouldn't be able to eat 4 apples.
That'd be hard work, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But if I said, okay, there's some nice bags of crisps there and a donut, and
yeah, I'll be on it like a car bonnet.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be all over it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, natural food you can't overeat, and you don't see obese animals in the wild because they're eating natural food. But foxes and pigeons, I think, are getting a bit of a problem if they're sort of eating junk food. But anyway, that's going off down another tangent.
So, when we talk about the shadow of the leader, if you've got biscuit tins and all of this sort of stuff in the office, just have a little think about that. What's that setting up, as the business? Should you have a bowl of fruit there, or should you? Because people do, actually. There are so many more people out there that don't kind of scream and shout about it, who just sort of say, what I could do with a banana, or I could do with an apple, or a piece of fruit, just as a little snack. Because a snack mid-day and mid-afternoon is probably more habit than the actual fact you need to eat something. Because if you had a full breakfast and you had a full lunch, then you should be okay for that kind of thing.
You shouldn't need to snack. And also, actually, hunger is actually in some ways good, because it means you're fat burning. So 5-hour gaps between meals is good. So it's not stressful to be hungry, as I loop it back into stress.
Sure. What's your just talking about that here, another little thought popped in the old peanut. What's your thought on intermittent fasting?
It's funny because obviously it is a big thing, and I was trying it out before I went to South Africa a few weeks ago, and I didn't feel hungry for breakfast, and I very, very rarely feel hungry anyway, and I just eat for 3 meals a day. But did I lose any weight with it? No, I didn't. So I've just gone back to 3 meals a day. But it didn't bother me by not
Yeah.
having breakfast. So I could kind of take it or leave it. But men seem to be better at it than women.
Well, I did exactly the same thing, and I tried exactly the same thing, and it seemed to be when you start eating in the morning is when you start getting hungry. So if you don't eat until lunchtime, as long as you're hydrated and you got some water in and things like that, I felt I was never getting hungry either. I tried it for about a month. Did I lose any weight? No. Why not? Because what I did was I thought, great, I've now got this window of like 6 or 7 hours where I can ram in all the calories that I've missed out in the morning that I didn't get. And the whole mindset just like went, this is bloody pointless. What am I doing? Because you're supposed to eat less, aren't you? The whole idea is you're supposed to eat. I mean, look, the fundamentals of this is that if you eat less calories than you burn off, you're going to lose weight and fat, which is all important. Go back, listen to the other episode and the importance of the fat. So there's all these little fatty diets and stuff, which I'm just interested. I'm just in your,
But it depends what
view
you're
on that.
eating in that window. So
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Oh, it's Burger King, McDonald's. It was all sorts, but it was under my calorie.
yeah. No.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Last little thing before we wrap up. What are some of the most successful either tips or tricks or tactics that you can help the MSP owners if they think that they see stress in some of their workmates, and what can they do about it? Because it can be, you can't just walk up like you do in the 80s when you got your Cabernet Sauvignon and your Marlboro Lights and go, what's the matter with you? Pull your socks up, you're feeling stressed. We don't do that anymore, do we?
So
But if someone is
you have an ashtray on your desk.
Yeah, anyway, that's
Yeah.
we're unwinding this show now. Yeah, what can we do if we think that someone's stressed? What's some of the best things to kind of help other people?
Well, I think, within your organisation, it's to have a culture of well-being, health and well-being within your organisation, so that people, if they are feeling stressed, that they feel that they can talk to you, the business owner, about it. Or maybe you've got an employee assistance program, or you've got resources that they can look at themselves. But then I guess it's just maybe sitting down and having a chat, or taking them, going out for a walk or stuff like that, just checking in that they're okay. Because, one of the symptoms that we talked about was a sense of loneliness and isolation. And maybe they don't feel that, people aren't going to go, Ian, I'm feeling stressed. What are you going to do about it for me? But, sometimes it takes them to sort of break down in tears or have a tantrum or whatever, to react to something before, somebody actually sort of takes any notice. But, and I'll send you a copy of these stress signals so that you can distribute them to your listeners. Because I think once you start to recognize what these things are, and you think, oh God, Ian over there in the corner, I don't think there's something going on. But I think if you approach it and you come across it as being, kind and understanding, then people will open up. Or is it that you need to signpost them to somewhere else? Because then it's like, well, what can you do for them? Do they need to have a little bit of time off? Or do they need help? If it's financial pressures because of the credit crunch, the cost of living crisis, we don't know what's going on in people's lives. Stresses of things like, relationships, bereavement. When we're talking about relationships, it doesn't have to be sort of divorce or separation, but those could be things that they're going through. Talked about finances, your kids. There's so many things that can go into the melting pot of life that suddenly sort of stack up, and then people start to feel really stressed and they can't cope. And they just don't know where to turn and what to do. So I think if you've got that sort of understanding approach with people, so that they open up and they talk, and then you can kind of help them with whatever they need to get the information they need to help them, or whether or not you can just help them, they just need a bit of time out because they've just got overwhelmed with stuff. It may be something to do with work. Who knows? Maybe a member of staff has left and they're doing two people's jobs, and they're feeling the pressure. But just because you don't think it's a problem, then everybody's sort of threshold for stress is very different. So I think you have to communicate.
Absolutely. And I think also, we haven't even said mental health once on this episode, but that's what we've been talking about. I think, don't underestimate, and I did have a bit of a funny thought on this, which I'll link on in a minute, but don't underestimate that some people, the amount of time that people spend with you in work is what I'm saying. It's a big chunk of life. It's a big part of the life. And you might be the biggest part of your team's life, because they might go home and they might have, different situations at home where they might be lonely, or they might have a broken family. They might have all sorts of different things. And you might never even know about that because you never even asked that question. And, if you're like the people who are going to be listening to this podcast, which are going to be kind of value-led, entrepreneurial MSP business owners, understanding or recognizing, I think, that you're a big part of people's lives. So, whether you might not be causing the problems, having that self-awareness and that culture, I think that culture is the key thing that you just said then was an important thing. The funny bit we added up to it that mentioned about 10 or 15 years ago, we went out to go and buy a new dining table, and I said to my wife, I like this one. And it was like thousands and thousands of pounds. And I said, I only sit at this dining table 2 days a week, Saturdays and Sundays. I should be buying a decent one at work because that's where I eat most of my meals. It was like at lunch. And it was kind of like a bit of a giggle on that one. But, that was reality. I'd have my breakfast at my desk, I'd have my lunch at my desk, and I'd, probably have my dinner on my lap when I kind of got home and I was watching telly with the kids and stuff. But yeah, don't underestimate how much of an impact and an influence and a contribution you are to other people's lives, positively and negatively.
And I think, asking people how they are, and they'll go, fine. And then, yeah, I'm fine. Fine. I know I said that I was very fine, I think, at the beginning. I don't know why I said that, but anyway, normally people, when they say I'm fine, and it's that tone in the voice, and it's like, how are you really? And then just keep asking them how they are, and then eventually they may start to sort of open up and tell you what's wrong. Because, at the end of the day, as we say, people spend a lot of time at work, but also if you're an understanding boss and you help people, then you are going to retain your talent, and you will attract good talent when you need to recruit, because you have a good sort of health and well-being policy or culture, and you look after your staff.
And then they can develop and grow with you and your business. So yeah, it is about, we're all in business because we're all in business. But if you can bring some people along and you can help them develop and grow, and then you look back at them and you go, wow, look what you've achieved in the last 3 years because of your personal growth and your confidence and your skills and your ability and things like that. That's a pretty cool feeling to wake up with in the morning, knowing that, you're adding value to other people's lives. So brilliant stuff. Rachel, as always, absolutely love chatting to you. So Rachel, as always, that was an amazing episode full of lots of information and, some quite deep conversations as well about, feelings and all this kind of non-techie stuff, which is so important to help, yourself live your best life. I just want to remind, I know we just talked about the recent episode I did with Rachel on episode 180, but also we did a couple of other episodes. There's one that was episode 145, which was You Are Not Alone. And it was about how to deal with isolation. If you feel that you're on your own in business, how to deal with that and how to overcome that feeling so that you realize there's these amazing communities like CompTIA and Tech Tribe and all the other ones that are out there, all to help you out. So thanks again, Rachel. It's been a great show. What's your final thoughts before we wrap up?
Okay, recognize your stress signals and or recognize them in other people. So I'll probably say people who are starting to get a bit irritable, they're not themselves, or maybe they're very tired all the time, or they're just not concentrating. So, just check in with them and ask them, how they're doing. And check in with yourself as well if you're feeling those things. Recognize those signals and do something about them. Look at the 5 pillars of vitality: your sleep, your diet, your physical activity, your mental well-being, and also your pause time, the time that you take out to rest and recharge.
Absolutely fantastic. As always, Rachel, it's been a pleasure. And I can't believe it. We've actually recorded the show that we were supposed to be recording to start with. So, yes, congratulations to both of us. High fives and all of that sort of great stuff. How do people get in contact with you if they want to continue the conversation, Rachel?
Okay, they can email me at Rachel, Rachel, at zestlifestyle.com, or visit the website, zestlifestyle.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, so under Zest Lifestyle, or Zesty Lady is my handle, because there are a lot of Rachel Williams out there. And then I'm on Instagram as Zest_lifestyle.
Brilliant stuff. If you ping those links over to me, we'll make sure they go in the show notes, and then we can capture everybody wherever they hang out and get their social media fix, but not straight before bed. As usual, brilliant show, Rachel. Thanks ever so much for your insights and stuff. And we look forward to catching up with you soon on the next show. See you soon.
Just before you go, and if you're curious about how this episode links with the ability to scale your MSP to $1 million, or if you're already there, accelerate to 5, then we want to invite you to come and take the MSP Mastery Quiz. And in just 3 minutes, you're going to get a 360-degree scan of your business, where you can identify the 1 or 2 tactics that can help you find more time, engage and align your people, and help generate more leads in your MSP. It's really simple. Just click on the link in the show notes. And if you have enjoyed this episode, we'd love to get some feedback from you by means of a rating, review on Spotify or iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. We really appreciate every single one of them. Now you can go and enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to catching up and connecting with you soon. All the best now.